Hey, welcome everyone. This is Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. I want to welcome you all to Plant Profits today. And my next guest founded a top cannabis retail design and install company that helps build out dispensaries and legal markets nationwide. I mean, when it comes to design and build and of dispensaries in the U.S. marketplace, my guest is the guy. His company, Temeka Group, does the work. Mr. Mike Wilson, who is the founder and CEO of Temeka Group, is my guest today. Welcome, Mike. How are you?
Great, Vern. Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you today. I really appreciate the time today to spend with you.
Oh, same here. Same here. I got so many questions about what you do because we really haven't had someone like you on the show. And this is, I think, is a great opportunity for really getting into the weeds a little bit about what design is all about. Because most people say, well, if it looks good, it's great. And I know that's not exactly how it works, right? So I think that'll be really, really important. Now, you guys have done over 600 dispensaries or in the process of doing several more of those. And so I don't know who's done more, but, you know, I always hear about you and your team and what you guys have done. You guys have been at building and designing and launching since 1991. So kind of what is Temeka and kind of how did it start?
Yeah, founded the company, obviously, old guy here,
Yeah.
1991, been a while. So started the company and was doing retail stores. So, in that duration, built probably, I've lost count, probably 7,000 retail stores of all different renovations between, a quick server store, Hot Topic store, every mall in every America. I probably built some type of store in every mall. With that, we did a lot of jewelry stores. So you think about like K Jewelers, Jared Jewelers, Sam and Shoebox. And that's, kind of the connection. You could kind of see the correlation when I was doing those and saw cannabis. I'm like, well, there's a really good connection between the two. High security, the glass cases, dispense, and all that. So that's what kind of got me into the space. And what happened 20 years ago, it's kind of funny, is a guy came up to me and knew I'd build retail stores. And he goes, hey, can you build my weed store? And I'm like, what the heck is a weed store? I was like, what is this? And this goes back, 20 years ago, but this is in the 215 days. And it was that semi-legal market in California. And he's hey, so I'm like, what do you need? And I went, well, shit, that's jewelry. I could do that. Built a store for him, did a couple stores, and that was it. And then, in the 215 days, they were open, but a lot of the problems back in those days was a lot of the, unfortunate, the security wasn't up to speed of what it is today. And a lot of those guys got, unfortunately robbed of the cash and the product. And after a while, he's like, I'm done. It was okay, but it was just, I don't want to risk myself and my family.
And that was your first client. That was your first.
Yes, that was it. 20 years ago.
And your first client is out of business.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that funny?
That is crazy.
Yeah, and then I took a pause, because obviously 2015, it was very, it was just a gray area at the time. And then as retail stores started going online sales and started, I saw, Colorado and the success and things, and then I was like, you know what, I got to get into the space. I could see it, so I got, I got super lucky. I got a couple different stores, and then I got introduction to the founders of Stizzy, and that was, to be honest. And
so was the beginning. Stizzy, yes. You started with Stizzy. Okay. So how did the introduction come about, Mike?
So a guy that I was doing some other stores with had done a license in Alameda, and they were partners on it. And I had shown, obviously, what I knew and my background and stuff. And he introduced me to the founders and says, hey, I think there's some value here. And what was happening, you've been around the space, a lot of the guys, I really am proud of my legacy to the legal market. That's my core business customer, is the legacy guy coming on, because obviously we know the guys, they know the product, they've been there, they've been in the trenches, they're hustlers. So I got in there with them, and what was really nice for them is I gained the trust. I got DTLA, obviously the flagship store built, and they were already in construction for a while. I came in, helped tweak it, got it open. and they're like, build all our stores. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like how you turned it around and
Yeah.
created that bond. But what's also nice is they trusted me enough to get inside the space of Stizzy and teach that part of it. Because I'll be honest, didn't know much about cultivation, extraction, manufacturing. I was literally seeing cartridges getting put together and seeing all this aspect and helping them tentative improvement all those spaces inside their downtown location of DTLA, because they also do cultivation and manufacturing this. So I got to see all that and build some of that out.
How did that help you though?
Just seeing it, like, it's different when I build a retail store and it's clothing hung up. I don't know where it gets manufactured. It's just, but literally seeing what goes into a cartridge, understanding the product, and just having a better understanding of how it's made, extraction process. Like I was clueless to that, but just seeing all that part of it. And that helped me just get more of an educational 101 in cannabis. Like I say, I had never been seeing any part of that. And seeing, obviously, in the 6 years of going through this, of the fighting between cultivation of what type of lights to use and all that stuff. Yeah. I never, I helped build that, but that's not my space. But just seeing the nuances of what's happened in the last 6 years and being exposed to that, it was helpful for me to understand and connect with my customers, because I have somewhat of an understanding with that. So that it was very helpful with that.
Thank you for that. Now, do you take like a prime contractor position on the space, and then you bring in subs, or how does that work?
Well,
or are you a sub?
We're a sub, but what we do is we design, build. Like I was a contractor for 30 years. It's hard geographically in this space to kind of keep that going. So I've got relationship with GC. So what I'll do is, there's some customers that have a GC they want to use, but what I help is with my knowledge, help put together a good construction set of documents. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important, that the design and functionality work with the store. The light switches are in the right spot. The case lights have a switch to turn off, the timers for everything. And that's what we kind of put together in the design build. And that's been our success in the retail space. Even before this, was putting together a good set of construction documents. It minimizes change orders. We talk about flow. We talk about, all that happening. So that's kind of what our importance are. And then what I do is bid out, multiple GCs, come back to our clients and say, hey, here's the different numbers. I vetted all these. Here's some good numbers. What I'll tell you good about this guy, his schedule is 8 weeks versus 10 weeks or 12 weeks. And then what is the money worth those 2 weeks worth being open sooner? And we just kind of go through that process of what that's the value for being open, or maybe a little early. So just kind of validate and vet those and just get them not out of trouble. That's at the end of the day, what ends up happening too, I see, is people jump in, it's very emotional. You've been around it. They get, I got my license. They get super emotional with it. But what ends up happening, those emotions take over the business acumen of making the right decisions. And that's what I kind of do, is like setting up the correct rent, setting up the correct space. Do you really want to stress on bringing out, do you really need 8,000 square feet or whatever the size of that building is, and reverse engineer? Because once you committed to that, that is the biggest investment you're going to do, is the space you rent or buy. Because that's the base bones of your construction costs and what that all looks like. So that's what we try to help with, is that site selection. And that's what I'm doing a lot of in New York, is helping them with the site selection and looking at the pros and cons. Is it better to pay $3,000 more the rent and have an ADA bathroom, not have any egress issues, versus $700,000 coming out of your pocket to make your building up to code? So those are things that I kind of give the due diligence aspects with.
I got it. So you really are important in just keeping them giving them the opportunity to make great decisions about what to do next as they erect their building, create the internal design, all of that. So you're kind of holding their hand through this process. Well, that's great. We're going to talk about some of your other clients too when we get back. We're going to take a quick break, Mike. I'm Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today, Mr. Mike Wilson. He is the founder. He's the CEO of Temeka Group, and they design wonderful and beautiful dispensaries across the United States. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits. Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today, Mr. Mike Wilson, is founder and CEO of Temeka Group. They've been building properties and facilities and designs since 1991. Obviously, he's on the show. He's deep into doing the same thing in the cannabis arena. Now, Mike, question: are you working solely in cannabis now, or have you kept up the diversity of clientele in other industries as you've seen your business grow in the cannabis arena?
I'm super blessed. We have, and exciting to say is we're working on projects like the New York Mets, their team stores. We just finished the Yankees. We've got work. I mean, pretty much 12 different stadiums right now we're working on, baseball, basketball, football with clients like Fanatics or New Era that we sign and build their stores and stuff. So I got cannabis sports. I mean, I can't say
how good is that, man? How good is that?
And then, I've got other brands, like underwear, leaf sandals, all like I've got some other cool brands that do stuff as well. But our core business is sports and cannabis. That's like the core part of what we do.
That's great. How big a team do you have?
I think we've got about 165 employees.
Okay.
We've got about 165, and I'm judging that about 165 because we're adding teams and stuff. We added a Florida division. We're going to be looking at something here in the Upper East Coast, to do something as well. So been very super blessed in this space, and like I say, growing as we need it to happen to support our customers and what we need to do.
Yeah, no, that's great that you're growing like that, and you're able to keep it all together. You just remind me of a guy who's actually on site, not in the office.
I'm an on-site guy. I'm a relationship guy. I'm not a desk guy. Yeah, you can tell my energy. I love out. And what I love is when I'm out with the card applicants and talking to about, sharing the story when Stizzy first started, telling them where they were at. And you look at back, these are what these guys are here in New York, just starting, going that legacy to legal market and what that looks like. And I could share those stories like, are you kidding me? And I said, no, I mean, they're a $700 million machine now, but literally 6 years ago, they're trying to build their first store. And so that's literally going about what I share with them. And it's exciting.
Those stories help. Now, did you, how long after Stizzy did cookies come around?
So obviously, credibility in this space is everything. So I got my trophy. It was Stizzy. And when you say that, it kind of opens the door for cookies. So what we did is we got in with, the TRP, who's TRP now, the cookies real estate team is who we connected with. We worked with Brandon Johnson, Luca, and all the team there, connected with them. And since day one, hit it off. Been building their stores. We're such a key individual. We're actually our Florida division, we started because of them. And we're part of that campus down there. So we've been very involved with their doing the DGT builds, doing the obviously the cookie builds and stuff there. So just a super good partner of ours. And what we call our Temeka family, they're part of it. And we love being part of them. But it's been helpful. And as you know, if you have a Stizzy and a cookies, that it's credibility, in this space. And that's what's kind of nice is sharing the conversations and how they do stores and stuff. We actually just did the cookies mirror, that the cookies logo that migrated in Berner's office. We just shipped that up, I think a couple weeks ago. So it's fun. It's fun projects that we're able to participate in with everybody.
No, that is great. What makes a great client?
In this space, it's challenging. It's all over the map, and it's just obviously somebody that's you got to work hard. I mean, at the end of the day, you just don't open a sign and you got to hustle. And with that, I think is having to do diligence, really thinking through the business plan of what you want to be, and what we talked about earlier with regards to the project and costs and rent. And I've seen so many people come to me, and they ran out of money and they don't know what, and because what happened is a little consultant bid a little money here, then this person bid money. They didn't have it all in one. And then what I feel terrible at, then they're having to go raise capital, which always in a distressed space to be with their space half built out and you don't have enough money. It's a challenge. So what we try to do is educate, have that the customer type, and as long as they're willing to hear and like I say, we'll give them options. But it's, some people get caught up in the emotion of this, and that's
Yeah.
what's challenging at times. And what we try to do is educate as much as we can and set them up for success and reverse
Right.
engineer. Okay, your rent is X. So that
Right.
means, the business model, this is what it has to do that. And we reverse engineer and help them set up a business course and the business plan and caution them like, hey, is it worth spending this much for rent? You got to realize before you got to pay a rent of X before you do anything. That's a big burden on you. That's that much per day. So just think
Right.
about what those costs immerse into there. So at the end of the day, what's a perfect customer? There's many of them. I've got people like Knox that I work with, Tommy, that X out of 315, great client, G Pharma and Eamon out of Chicago area. And even working with like Elaine at Ash Society, a woman owned that's battling with 54 other dispensaries in the city of Santa Ana, and she's top 5. I love the underdog. I always love the underdog.
That's great.
That's great. Doing that, and she just opened her store in Pomona, being part of that. I really love that. I always love helping the underdog overcome and beat the big Goliath.
Yeah. What's the value? That's a great story. And I can tell you're all about storytelling. So what's the difference of in the success of a store, that a bad design versus a good design? Same location, bad design, good design. What effect is it on the business?
Efficiencies, functionality. You go through some of these, we come there, they've got this design, and we're like, hey, do you realize the fulfillment? You're walking, like, this person will go walk 18,000 steps a day to fulfill, like, just efficiencies, connecting that efficiency. And we talk about bodega versus deli style, and a fusion between the two, because a lot of people, it's understanding their experience. Do they want to have hey, Vern, welcome today. Let me walk you through the products, and having that one-on-one Apple experience, or having the jelly donut display coming up and you point at the thing and get it. How do you want to do it, or fusion between both? And we're finding more and more the fusion between more is having that type of experience. And also too is your customer types. The first time customer, there's a little bit of education. And I'll be honest, when I first walked into the first couple of stores I was intimidated. I did not know the difference between indica and sativa. I was embarrassed to say. And it's very intimidating when you get into because cannabis, compared to high school in the days when I smoke, it's a whole different world. The levels we're at today is a whole different world, So that's intimidating. So what we talk about is that first time person versus the repeat customer. And that's what we talk about, is the repeat orders, having that cute, lines were cool 6 years ago. Now it's all about efficiency. And, in New York is especially, people don't want wait in lines. They want to get their product and go. Right. So express windows, pre-ordering, all those efficiencies to get customers in and out, So at the end of the day, it's efficiency. Secondarily, is designing a space that makes sense for functionality and the fact of fulfilling to a customer without, having to minimize that overhead of too many employees on staff. Because if you don't do it efficiently, you're paying employees a little bit too much money to have too many bodies on there to fulfill and make that work.
Yeah. So, totally get that. So, when I think about you, your personality is so dynamic, and your value is created in front of the customer, the client. That's how you create value for your business. I could tell. But what happened? Have you recruited other folks like you?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate. My business partner, Paul Niebuhr.
Yeah.
So what happened, to give you a little story, I was building Hot Topic stores and Torch stores. He was a director of construction there, create a relationship, and he's like, hey, do you need help? Because he's more of the architect. Like, I'm the yin, he's the yang, Yeah. So I brought him on, and he's the one that's been, absolute, the connect for me. And he's got that architecture. He helps me with the layouts. And like I say, I'm more of the outside interface guy, talking to you, kind of connecting with the customers. He's in the back of us, making me look good, doing these designs, presenting, and helping that aspect, because he's that creative mind and architect and functionality that complements me and what my purpose is and what his purpose is. We connect really well.
Oh, that's great. Now, do you have other folks I mean, you started your business in 91. So do you have folks with great tenure? Have you found that you have folks with great tenure in your business?
I treat them like family. I've got people that have been
Yeah,
with me
that's great.
23, 25 years, most of them. And,
Yeah.
I've got people that have married inside that
Mhm.
have met at the business and married and are still with us.
Yeah.
So, and watching their kids grow up, within us
Yeah.
and stuff. So it's really special that I've been able to, have these guys and we treat each other like family. And like I say, if we got to go out and I could go back in the shop and say, guys, we got to jump on a plane. We got to go make this happen. They make it happen. So I'm very blessed with what my what I call my family and my staff is. They support me in a great way.
No, that's great. Mike, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back. I want to get into New York. Okay. This is Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today, Mr. Mike Wilson, founder and CEO of Temeka Group. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. This is Vern Davis, and I am your host of Plant Profits. My guest today, Mr. Mike Wilson, founder and CEO of Temeka Group. Now, Mike, New York, right? You're there. You're all over the state. You're in the city. So tell us about that engagement and how you got that and how what you and the team are doing for the communities of New York.
Yeah. So talk about a crazy way I got here. So one of my project managers, Nicole Nutrino, was up in Buffalo. She's one of my sales rep project managers, and she does all the new hour work. Well, my Kaylin Castetter, who's a very good compliance, very keyed in the legacy market here, they ran across each other and said, "Hey, what do you guys do?" And she says, "Oh, sports and kind of in cannabis too." And he goes, "Oh, you guys do?" And he's like, and he goes, "Can I meet Mike? Because I would love him to come up." And this was not last November, a year and a half, 2 Novembers ago. Would he come up? So he called me up and said, "Hey, I'm doing a legacy, guys. I'm bringing all my legacy guys, bringing 72 customers in and coming in. I'd love you to come talk." So I came and did a talk and a conversation with them and met, the Reggies of Canna House and all the different people that are legacy guys here. And it was funny. They came up afterwards and they're like, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Can I, and it was kind of cool and engaged. I still have a relationship with all these guys. So it was great."
That's great.
Well, then the Dasney thing came up, the opportunity for Dasney came up and he goes, "Hey, I think you should go after this thing." So I was like, shoot. So we kind of put an RFP and here we are today. We got accepted as one of the DB firms and we've been very blessed in the space to be participating with that. And I think with our actions with that, we've also been able to connect with the Card Coalition. I'm working Jeremy Rivera on his Turk Brothers project. I was just literally on the phone with Cosmarty at Conbud this morning, going for his project and just talking through things. But I think people see once again that we've proven ourselves in the space. We're a legacy to the legal market. We've proven ourselves, obviously, going through the RFP process to build the Dasney stores, and then obviously with the privatization of the card applicants, that are doing it privately, we're working with them. So I'm very, once again, honored and blessed to be working with all these participants and card licensees. But that's kind of how we fell into the place of it. It wasn't planned or scheduled. It just kind of happened through the introduction to Kaylin and then the Dasney opportunity.
Oh, that's great. Are you exclusive?
No.
Okay.
So the DB firm. So what they happen is they put it out for an RFP. I think they have 10 DB firms that they kind of picked. We kind of, I think, floated to the top of our background of rollouts and being able to do this. So they selected us to do pop-ups to kind of get those temporary stores open, to get the product rolling, to get that happening. And then from there, we've been obviously, getting the stores and doing the permanent stores, which we're really excited. We're turning over Bleecker, our first one here in the next week. Turn it over and we'll be opening probably a couple weeks from there. So very excited about some of the permanent stores opening up for Dasney and the state contributed stores funded.
That's great. Now, does the states, do they get involved with what you do in the stores?
So what they do is they selected us. So they site select. They work with a real estate firm that fits the sites, and then us DB firms with the processes. We go up and look at it, give an assessment, give a budget of what we think it's going to do, the good and the
Right.
bad about the bones of it, and create a budget. And then they, thumbs up or thumbs down based on the relativity of the market and the value of what that looks like. So that's how it kind of works. And then what we do, then we go to work. We design it, we build
Mm-hmm.
it, and then we work with like Roland and put together this concept of and what we want to make sure is, and what was very passionate about me is, I want all these stores not looking cookie cutter and in there. So what we've done is made sure that flavor. I want Roland when he walks that store to get goosebumps every time. Like I want to make it his vibe. It's like the difference between like when the guys walk in their Stizzy store, they're excited about Stizzy. I want the same enthusiasm here. So we've been working, getting their each brand. So we want these stores definitely look differently. The core carcass, that like the functionality of the cases and stuff are all the same, but the color palette, the vibe, if it's hip hop, if it's talking about the legacy story, like what's cool about Roland, he's very about legacy to legal. He's very key in wanting to emphasize that. Other people like Keyshawn at Union Square, hip hop, that's the foundation of his pillar. And we're being in Union Square is very proud to have the Union Square store. So he wants to talk about hip hop. So those are kind of the fun things that we work through and kind of get that personality of the license holder and put it into their store. And it's kind of fun going through that journey with them to do that.
That's terrific. No, that is absolutely terrific. Talk to me about the New York marketplace and how you see it from your vantage point and what's happening there. And is it changing for the better?
I think, what's awesome is the state and obviously working it and putting up the money. Because what I've seen in others, other states, the social equity thing, they throw a piece of paper at somebody.
Yeah.
And they don't have the capital. You know what I mean? And it's just sad. And then you got the predators, they're giving them some money and they trust these people. And then what they do, they end up taking their license, down the road when it expires to be able to do that. Or they just cash out. They just take a check and be done. What I love about this is, seeing the entrepreneurship and having the ability for them to get a store that can compete with all the other stores that I do across the nation, that they've set them up the foundation to be successful. So that's what's kind of exciting about those aspects.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. That is great. Now, is it going on schedule? The bills, or has that been slowed down by some of the other issues, especially in the city?
At the end of the day, you hear a lot of negative, but at the end of the day, no one's ever there's no playbook for this. And what the state is
that's so true, Mike.
It's a big bite. There's no playbook for any of this. So what I got to say is the haters stop. Like, no one's doing it perfectly, but no one's ever pulled this off. To get a $200 million commitment, raise the capital, and kudos to Ruben to architect that, and Governor Hochul and the OCM and everything about putting this together. It's never been done. And the fact that they're putting them in the front of line to get them successful before the big guys and all this other stuff, they're getting them a head start. So kudos to everybody and part of the state of New York to do this. And is it a little bit behind? Yes, but they're going to start coming together, the playbook and stuff. And so I'm super honored and proud to be part of this, because this is making generational setup for wealth for a long term. And that's what's exciting about seeing these little seedlings of potential stizzies that we did in California here in New York. And let's be real, there's going to be some failures. Some of these guys aren't going to succeed, and that's a bummer. But there's going to be more success than failures, which I'm very confident and proud to know that that's going to happen. But I think it's really good of what they did. Now, the compromise, what I'm going to say the negative part is that they're working on is the illicit shops. And, that's a problem. That's
an issue. Yeah.
So I know there's been some, turning up. I'm seeing some raids happening. I see some legal things going out there. So
what do you think about that? What do you think about that visual? Right. Of especially if you look at what you're involved with in New York, the visual of folks of raids, basically on the demographic that you're trying to support and help and raise up. Right.
Yes.
Tell me about that visual in the city. And my theory is that's why it's taken some time, because you got to be careful, I would think.
Well, I think it's twofold. I think it's very true about that is it happened. It happened on
Yeah.
everyone's watch. You know what I mean? So to
Yeah.
unwind this is a challenge. But secondary too
Yeah.
is all these customers need their product,
Yeah.
and I think there's a little nuance between the shutdown and opening and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
that's a higher level than me. I'm just a DB guy, but I think, like I say, it's a challenge because literally I
Yeah.
walk from the Upper East Side down to Midtown. I counted like 30 of them. It's just, and with
Yeah.
that, it's just sprouting up. And what we used to call LA, and we still call it the whack-a-mole. You shut one down, they open right back up. So it's a challenge. I think this is going to be still a tough battle ahead to get this. It's going to eventually happen, but it's going to take a big, a structurally a sound strategic plan to be able to pull this off because it's going to be, it's not easy. There's a
Yeah.
lot of stores open out there, so it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. I love it. No, and I love your optimism and your energy behind what you said, because we need that because it all needs to change. Right. It all needs to change. And I think that to your point, haters calm down because you just can't just go close down 70 spots and big time raids, and keep the community on your team. And it's hard to do. That's hard to do. That's hard to do. So there's some nuance and some to this, and I'm with you, Mike. It will change. It will happen, but unfortunately, it can't happen overnight. It just won't.
No.
So it just won't
many.
happen. Yeah, I so enjoyed this conversation with you. I'm going to ask you one last question, and it's something you said earlier, is that you had folks that been with you 20 plus years, and you have families inside a family, right? And so what about your place, your company, your business that you believe created that to make that possible? And you've seen it over and over again.
I think the passion, obviously you tell me a passionate guy. I'm not
no. You're a slouch, Mike. You're a slouch.
And I think that passion, it's within our company. I think people love that, you know what I mean? And the excitement of what we build, we do some cool stuff, and when we did the NHL store, we did the NFL store, just the MLS and all the different stores and cannabis stores. We do cool stuff. And, like I say, that have cannabis and sports stuff and they being part of it. And I think they feed off the energy. They just feed off each other because what we really are down with is having passionate people that live and die and love Temeka. We're part of a culture that we created that we just love what we do and we'll go to fight. And like I say, if I got to get guys on a call, let's go. Let's go do it. And yesterday I was picking up trash and organizing stuff. And there's nothing I won't do. I have to clean toilets. I got to clean toilets. I'm not above anybody. And I think that's the other thing is respecting and loving each other. That, what, I'll go to war for any of my employees, man. I've got their back. They've got my back. And I think that mutual respect is huge in the culture of our company that we've created. And I love that part of that team.
We'll let that be the last word. Congratulations on what you created. And I want to thank you, Mike, for coming to Plant Profits and being here. And I want to thank everyone who's listening and who will listen to this podcast. And just to let you know, you can download episodes of Plant Profits by going to cannabisradio.com, who's our partner here, or subscribe to the show on all major podcast platforms, right? Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, iHeart, all of them. We're there. Download Plant Profits. And also go to Protis Global, right? Go to Protis Global, my company, PROTIS global.com, and really take a look at what we do and how we've built companies and how we've changed people's lives in the process of that and created great teams and great companies. And take a look at us. And to next time, I'm Vern Davis. I'm the host of Plant Profits. My guest today was Mr. Mike Wilson, founder and CEO of Temeka Group. Until next time, cheers.